This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman and Riley Smith. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Wednesday, June the 15th, 2022. We thank you for joining us. Coming up in today's show, I have a chance to sit down with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. We talk about a Washington Post story about Joe Biden's visit to Iowa, and we also talk about the words that she got to have with farmers and producers and other stakeholders when it came to the high cost of fertilizers last week here in the state. We'll also have a check of your ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of the trading day for a Wednesday, and we turn to Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Jim, we talked this morning about how we thought things were going to go with the Fed meetings and everything. Seems like it kind of went that way. Tell us how the markets reacted today.
Well, overall, for the Fed meeting, we just got the numbers. The Fed raised the rate 0.75 of a point, so the cost of money definitely got a little bit more expensive today. That was in line with what the trade was thinking after the high inflationary number on Friday, so that wasn't a shock. On the grain side of the equation, we did see quite a bit of bull spreading in the corn market today. The July corn market ended up settling about 5.5, 6 cents higher. December corn is relatively flat. What we'd seen earlier the last couple of weeks is actually a lot of pressure on the spot July corn market of fund liquidation. The funds have been long quite a bit of July corn as well as some other commodities going into the summertime. With the liquidation we've been seeing in the stock market as well as the cryptocurrencies, it did kind of spill a little bit into the grain market. It does look like that technical selling liquidation has run its course, and that kind of provided a little bit of support for the corn market. Weather-wise, still we're looking at what looks like a relatively warm, dry forecast, at least for the next week to 10 days. So that also is providing a little bit of support to the grain markets today, Dustin.
Now, we talked earlier this morning, there was a possibility of a cancellation of soybean shipments. How did that all come about?
We did see a cancellation of soybean shipments this morning. It was 100,000 metric tons. That did lead to a little bit of pressure to the front month July contract, which was down about a nickel today when it was all said and done. What you're looking at there is probably some grain that just did not get shipped in time, and the producers are looking at it saying, hey, look, I can get rid of these $17 beans and replace them with maybe fall beans a little bit closer to 15. We tend to see that this time of year, but it definitely was a little bit negative. It shows, that the market is maybe getting a little bit near capacity for the old crop pricing at this point in time.
You know, I saw a report earlier today too, we haven't talked about Russia for a few days, but saying now they might let some exports out, but they're not going to clear the shipping lanes. Now, what would that mean in that situation? And also hearing that the U.S. might be putting up grain silos along the border with Poland.
Well, that's really the million-dollar question right now. Overall, you got to be relatively impressed with the amount of grain they did get planted this year. Their production is going to be down, but it's not down as much as some people has feared. But the real question right now is what are they going to do with it? Harvest is just beginning in that part of the world for the wheat crop, and you cannot still get this grain out. There was a lot of hope the last couple of weeks that we would get this quote-unquote grain corridor that would allow the grain out of the country to flow. The Russians have said they're willing to allow the grain to flow, but kind of the caveat to do that is the Ukrainians or somebody's got to demine those ports. And right now, no one believes that's going to happen. I know I don't, because if you demine the ports, you pretty much just open the door for Russia to come in and invade that portion of the country. Now, the Russians have told the Ukrainians they would not do that. But mind you, these are the same Russians that told the French president and the chancellor of Germany the week before they invaded the Ukraine that they weren't going to invade Ukraine. So the Ukrainians don't believe that's going to happen. So now where we're at a situation at this point in time, Dustin, is what do they do with all this grain? And now, the U.S. government as well as other foreign governments are now talking about building temporary storage to try to keep it in quality. But that still doesn't solve the logistics issue of being able to get this grain out of the country. They were exporting 5 to 6 million metric tons of grain a month before the war started. Now it's maybe hopefully getting up to 2 million capacity. So it's a legitimate problem that the markets try to figure out what's going to happen. I, for one part, right now, do not believe you're going to get a lot of grain out, which is going to put more and more pressure on the U.S. crop to perform well. And that is now designs of what's going to happen next, 6 weeks forecast. The trend has been for a warm, dry forecast. We'll see how accurate it is.
All right, moving over to the livestock side of things, Jim, how did the hogs and the cattle make out today?
Overall, the hog market traded a little bit relatively kind of a sloppy trade. We need some demand for the hog market right now. We're not seeing it at this point in time. We will see if we get some export sales tomorrow, but I'm not too optimistic. The live cattle market is definitely catching a bid right now. Unfortunately, we are hearing lots and lots of reports of huge death losses due to this heat that kind of hit the cattle country, feeding country. So you got a lot of death losses. Now you're seeing a lot of drop in weight. So all of a sudden you are seeing a tight supply situation tighten up a little bit quicker than people were thinking. So that tends to support the live cattle. The other thing going on right now, it is interesting to see, even though you are seeing the inflation at red hot numbers, gasoline prices still relatively high, there are still reports right now that in general, the demand for vacation rentals, vacation spots, people go on vacation is still relatively good. At this point in time, it seems like after 2 years of hibernating, the Americans are choosing to go no matter what the cost is. And that is also providing maybe a little bit of support to the beef industry.
All right, Jim. Well, if anybody out there wants to make adjustments to their marketing plan, talk about some strategies they can have, how do they get in touch with agmarket.net?
You can reach me directly at 815-665-0461 or reach any of the Ag Market team members at 844-424-6758.
All right, Jim. Well, we appreciate the insight as always, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you for having me on, and stay cool.
That again was Jim McCormick of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and run down those closing numbers brought to you by Bar Chart. July corn was up 5 3/4 at $7.74 even. December down 1/2 at $7.20 3/4. July beans down 4 3/4 at $16.93 3/4. August down 2 3/4 at $16.13 3/4. November new crop down a penny at $15.24 1/4. Soy meal for August was up $3.90 at $404.50. Soy oil down 55 cents at $75.77. Chicago wheat was down 1 1/2 at $10.63 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 7 at $12.01 1/2. Kansas wheat down 9 at $11.40 1/4. Oats up 1 3/4 at $6.31 even. August live cattle were up $2.72 at $136.80. August feeders up $1.97 at $173.27. Lean hogs for July up $1.65 at $108.27. Pork cutouts up $1.45 at $112.97. Class 3 milk was 3 cents higher at $24.34. And that's been a check of our ag market recap for today. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I sit down and talk with Senator Joni Ernst. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AM/PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, last week, Iowa Senator Joni Ernst was in the state to talk with stakeholders and farmers about the high costs of fertilizer and other inputs that are weighing down on any profits that the farmers are making due to higher commodity prices. She also had the chance to talk with me about a Washington Post article that called in question the president's motives when he came to Menlo, Iowa, just back in April. We're talking right now with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Senator, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today.
Yeah, always great to be with you. Thanks, Dustin.
So last week you were back here in Iowa and you were at a round table talking about fertilizer costs, high input costs. What kind of things did you take away from that event? Tell us about that.
Well, Dustin, it was a great discussion, and we had a lot of different officials from the Farm Bureau, from our federal government with USAID, from our Department of Agriculture there in Iowa, and a lot of farmers representing the Iowa Soybean Association, the Iowa Corn Growers, and just interested participants, and talking about the rising cost of fertilizer price and, the difficulties that farmers will have with those input costs and breaking even in this year and future years to come. So there was a lot of great discussion, a lot of good solutions that came forward as well. But a lot of that does rely on the federal government working on certain regulations and encouraging different areas of research and development. And we simply know that this administration is not going to allow us to move forward in those areas. So anyway, it was very positive. We know that those costs of fertilizer have gone up in some cases nearly 300%. So this is extremely concerning all across the Midwest.
Now, you were talking about some options that were available for exploring with the administration wasn't necessarily backing it. What kind of things are those, just so we have an idea of what you're talking about there?
You bet. It's everything from obtaining and allowing permits for fertilizer plants. We know that there is one that has been proposed in Michigan, but it has taken over 10 years to get the permitting process done. So the Biden administration could really work with those folks so that we're opening new plants right here domestically. We need to do that. And we also heard from a farmer who has worked with a community that uses the waste that goes to the city's wastewater treatment, and they can use that waste coming out of that facility to develop product that can be put on farmland. So again, just research and development and permitting, whether it's through the Iowa DNR and the federal government, but there are all kinds of ways, from permitting plants to waste from cities and everything in between. But the federal government really has to work on these areas and allow that type of permitting activity. Otherwise, we are completely reliant on other countries to supply what we need here in the United States.
Now, fertilizer, I know, being the main topic, but obviously I know farmers and ag people, they'll talk about all the problems that they have to deal with. Did you hear about anything else while you were here that was really concerning to you?
Oh, of course, Dustin. And I love our farmers and ranchers because they are always blunt, they are upfront, and they're going to tell you what's on their minds. And of course, diesel prices was an issue that came out again. So again, all of these input costs that have skyrocketed during the Biden administration. And yet again, we have an administration that is very unwilling to tap into American resources. We should be drilling more. We should be producing more domestically, that type of energy. We know that the natural gas prices, of course, are affecting then fertilizer costs. We heard about that as well. And just inflation in general. Our supply chain is broken, and all of those folks that attended the roundtable have great concerns about how do we get out of this without going into a full-blown recession. And that's what they feel like is on the horizon. That's what we're feeling as well, because we have an administration that is absolutely unwilling to utilize domestic resourcing to fix all of these issues.
And you brought up diesel and natural gas. Obviously, fuel prices have been something we've been worrying about now for several months. And it was interesting. In April, the president was here at an ethanol plant, and he announced the waiver on the E15 moratorium again for this summer, and everybody was happy about that. But now, on Monday, Washington Post comes out with a story that the president may not have wanted to be here in the first place. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, how disappointing, Dustin. The Washington Post came out with an article yesterday, and it really fleshed out some thoughts that the president had about going to Iowa. He did not want to go to Iowa, and he's questioning the validity and the value of our biofuels. He was really upset that his staff made him go to Iowa and go to, of course, a biofuels producer. And it just really does show the duplicity of this administration. They made promises. President Biden made promises on the campaign trail, said he was behind biofuels, and yet he's behind scenes saying he doesn't believe in it. And he certainly didn't want to come to Iowa. That's really unfortunate, and I hope our Iowans are paying attention to this, and all of those Democratic candidates that are out there saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. So it tells you where this administration is, and they're really the value that they see in our farmers and the products that we have coming off of our ag land right there in Iowa and all through the Midwest. I think it's a shame, and the president just needs to stop lying to the American people. Be upfront, tell us what he thinks. Don't hide behind his staff, and certainly don't tell us one thing and do another.
And you know, you've got bipartisan support on biofuels, you know, so have you heard anything from senators in the Democratic Party about that story and what was said there?
No, I haven't. And it is so funny how I think a number of these Democrats will try and separate themselves from President Biden. You don't see many requests with the fall election coming up. You don't see many requests, Democrats asking President Biden to come into their states and help them campaign. It's because they know this administration's policies are absolutely wrong for the United States of America. Our farmers are feeling that heat right now. It is truly unfortunate that these unnecessary pressures have been put upon our farmers and the American family. We simply have to do better. The farmers recognize that. I wish that the Biden administration would do so as well.
Well, Senator, we thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today. We know you got a busy schedule, and we appreciate your time as always.
Oh, thanks so much. Always good to be with you, Dustin.
And that again was Iowa Senator Joni Ernst. Let's go ahead and take a look at that ag weather outlook. Well, it started out rainy this morning in Des Moines. It got a little sunny, but now the clouds have rolled back in again. But the heat is still with us, though I guess 90 degrees is cooler than 99, so we'll take whatever we can get. But let's run down how the rest of the state's going to run for the next 24 hours, courtesy of the National Weather Service. Well, as we saw today, again, those showers pushed their way through the area. We did see variably cloudy skies, as we said before. The chance of showers and thunderstorms still in those northern and central regions of the state, but it was still remaining hot in the east. We saw temperatures anywhere from the upper 70s in the northwest to the mid-90s. Now tonight, look for some clearing skies, but there will be some storms still remaining in the east. We'll see lows anywhere from the upper 50s to the mid-60s. Now tomorrow it will be mostly sunny and hot, though not as hot as it's been in the past few days. We'll see temperatures from the high 80s to the low 90s. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map right now, we see for tomorrow, Cherokee will be mostly sunny at 89, Shenandoah mostly sunny and the hot spot at 92, Des Moines and Albia both mostly sunny at 91, Waterloo mostly sunny 89, and Clinton will round it out being mostly sunny and a high of about 90. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of our Ag Weather Outlook. And just like that, we're at the end of today's episode of Ag Matters PM. We thank you for joining us. You can find all of our information online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and on our YouTube channel. Don't forget also, we have twice daily free market podcasts on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Podbean, and Google. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith and Avery Haskell, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.